Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Help with Natalie Cuomo. I'm so excited for today's guest, Hanna Dickinson.
Oh my gosh. What an intro. Thank you. So much excitement.
Oh my God. I'm excited to have you. Wow, watching your Comedy Central sets this morning.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I need the views. Watch.
So, okay, last week I was like auditioning for that commercial. I saw your name on the sign-in sheet. And it was like my first in-person audition since basically ever. Like, I guess because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
And so now I have one today, and I'm like, Hanna is totally going to be there.
No. What was it for?
Today?
Yeah.
It's later. It's for mayonnaise.
Oh, no.
You're not.
Didn't get that one.
Fuck.
Did you get a call back for the other one?
No, did you?
No. But it was, when I got there, it was like, it called for twins, which immediately I thought was weird. And then there were sets of twins there. So I'm like, why would they even audition people who weren't twins?
It didn't even just say twins. It said identical twins.
Yeah. And they were literally identical twins. And I went in with a girl who was black, and we both looked at each other and we were like, well, this was fun.
Yeah,
she was like, yeah, we're not getting this. And yeah, so it was like, I mean, maybe I guess if you're good enough, they look for something else. But I feel like I did that audition. I was like, I'm so pissed I came up here today. I mean, I guess it's good experience, whatever. But I do a bunch of auditions like that where it's like you go in there and you do a little twirl and then they're like, no, thank you. And you're like, oh, okay. That's
so I am not accustomed to the twirl. Like when they were like, so we're going to do 16 beats to Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. I was like, this is out of my comfort zone.
That's funny. I was captain of my high school dance team.
Really?
So, yeah. But I mean, I still was like, this is so weird as a 31-year-old woman to be spending my Tuesday morning dancing to Taylor Swift Shake It Off.
Yeah, they had to like keep restarting it because of me.
Oh. Well, you know, it's good to be remembered regardless of how
so, like,
good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. It was a fun time.
It was yeah. I mean, I've been auditioning since I was like not to be like that, but like not to be like I've been auditioning, but I have since like the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty at the point where I'm like pretty over auditioning and acting. I mean, I want to be an actor, but like I auditioned throughout high school. My mom would drive me up to New York. I auditioned through college. Like I would do like the sketchiest shit in college. I would literally do like Craigslist auditions in college.
Yeah.
Because I was at USC
and
LA.
like backstage.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to another guy's basement today. You know, just like I remember one audition, the guy was like, do you feel comfortable taking your top off? And I was like, right now? And he was like, no, if you get it. But I was like, sure. I just remember I'd do anything to get an audition. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess I'm grateful for every opportunity. But it is kind of like, it does feel like I have been auditioning for a long time. So these auditions do feel like they wear on
Do you
my
feel like
self-esteem.
did you have like, theater parents?
No, I mean, my mom was very supportive. I wanted to do it. Like, I
Okay.
wanted to be an actor my whole life. And my mom was very supportive and would drive me. But then in high school, I kind of stopped in high school for a bit because I was like, I don't want to drive up to New York. I don't want to like miss another weekend to like get a no from an NYU student, because I auditioned for NYU films and I like did a couple, but like it always just felt so impossible. And that yet I kept going and I kept going, and then here I am still doing it, and it's like it does feel like it takes
so long.
I'm like, I've been doing stand-up for 10 years and I'm like, okay, I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, you've accomplished a lot. Like you've done a lot of Comedy Central stuff. Like you've got a lot of credits. Like, do you feel accomplished?
No.
Does anyone ever though?
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Is like I try to do like gratitude journals now that I don't have a job anymore. I'm like, I had like this crisis of like, what am I doing next? Because I do feel like I'm in this transition phase. And maybe that's why I don't get auditions. I cannot speak. No, but I do feel like I'm in a transition phase where it's like I don't know what I'm gonna do next, and like I'm not making enough money and stand up to like support myself the way I was, and it always feels bad to like take a dip.
Right.
But I think that's like I'm realizing that's a part of like life as a whole, not just in this industry. Like this industry definitely, but all my other friends, like a lot of them are going through things right now. Everyone's like, it's the moon. I'm like, is it the fucking moon? Or I don't know. It feels like right now it's just a very tough time for a lot of people.
Right. Or Scorpios and Mars. No, I don't know. I just
I've been told that means that love is coming into my life.
Really?
And I have zero. When I say I have zero love life, like I only text my parents.
So like I never understood this about you. I feel like when we did shows together at Greenwich, you'd be like, yeah, I've always been single. I was like watching your sets this morning. You're like, okay, in one you said you had a boyfriend for a little bit, so I was like, okay. But then in one you're like, I've been single for 10 years. Like this doesn't make sense.
No, okay, well thanks. But I dated a guy for like 3 months and it was very serious. Like it just got very serious very quick. But it wasn't like looking back, I'm like, that was not a serious relationship. That was like a manic episode.
Like a love bomb.
Yeah, it was a love bomb for sure. Like he moved in with me.
Ugh, classic.
He told me he loved me. We went to Miami
Little
together.
Narcissist swooped in.
Yeah. And then it was like he started saying things like, yeah, I kind of prefer Jewish girls, which is like fine to say, but I'm not Jewish. He like said that to hurt me. Like it was like a group. We were sitting next to dinner at like a group next to a group of like very hot. Not to stereotype, but they were just like hot Jewish girls who like, they were, I don't know, they just seemed very like hot. Mm-hmm. And then after dinner, he's like, yeah, I kind of prefer Jewish girls. And I was like, why would you say that to me? Like, you know what I mean? It was like he would just try to be an asshole to like make me feel bad. He'd be like, okay, like I did a lot of shrooms at that time and I was getting a lot of tattoos. And he's like, you can either stop getting tattoos or stop taking shrooms. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Meanwhile, he was like railing cocaine in the bathroom, which kind of makes sense. But like, so I don't, when I say, if I'm talking about him, I guess I had a boyfriend, but like it was so chaotic and he would yell at me all the time. Like he was like, you can't wear hats. You look stupid as I wear a hat. You know, like he would just be very controlling in weird ways. And I got out of there after like 3 months.
Was he a comic?
No.
Okay.
I met him on Hinge.
Okay.
He was like, and in the beginning, it was so, of course, because that's what a love bomb is. It was so fun. But I was like, I think you're love bombing me because it was so much fun. Yeah. And it was like, so we laughed so much and like we had such a good time together. And then he just like on a dime switched and it was like kind of scary.
Yeah.
And then I would yell back at him and I would tell my sister-in-law, like, I don't know, I yell back. And she's like, yeah, but have you ever been in a relationship where you yell? Do you yell at people normally? Do you yell at people with your friends?
Right.
And I was like, oh no. She was like, yeah, so it's probably not
normal.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I hadn't been in a relationship since college. So I was like, when he was yelling at me, I didn't really, it's hard to like, I think it was a good experience because now as soon as I see traits of that, and I think that is why I'm single, because as soon as like I get like a whiff of like, oh my God, this guy's a psycho, I like just run away.
Yeah.
Or I go after guys who are unavailable because it just is safer.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because I feel like you're a person that's like, you're accomplished.
That's nice.
Like you're pretty, you're smart, like all of the things where like you could get a boyfriend if you wanted to.
I think there was one guy who last year who I could have, it was like headed that way, but I just wasn't ready to be in a relationship. I think I was with this guy for a while and then I went through this horrible thing and I went to rehab and I think then I got really addicted to Adderall after rehab.
Yeah.
So I think I was just not in a good place. Like I've been off Adderall for almost a year and I'm starting to get, my brain is like starting to work again, but that shit's like meth.
Totally.
And I have to like take naps during the day. I've had to take naps for a year. Like my brain is like slowly catching up. And I'm actually going to get an EEG after this to see if I have narcolepsy because I like keep falling asleep. Yeah. I like can't stay awake. It's so crazy.
So, okay. How did the Adderall, were you prescribed Adderall? Mm-hmm. It's so funny. When I was in high school, like I got an Adderall prescription, but it was like not in the right way. Like basically I took Adderall from like my friend. I think I do have ADHD, but I'm not sure if I like gave it to myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so basically my friends all had Adderall and I would take it to write essays. It would help so much. So I told my therapist, I was like, my mom wants me to tell you that like I take Carla's Adderall. And he's like, okay. And he wrote me a prescription. And like I just had a prescription. I would take it for years and I only knew how to write essays on Adderall. And then I stopped like a year or two after college because I felt like so dependent on it for working. And also it like becomes a weight thing. It's like, oh, I know if I take Adderall, then like I'm not going to eat. And so it's also like, it's like a duo thing for me.
Yeah, I think that was me too. So I was on Vyvanse and Adderall because I got my brain scan and I'm high ADHD. Like I tested like extremely high. And I was in a really rough place when I got out of rehab, and I was taking Adderall, and I had lost a bunch of weight in rehab because I just had gone through this pretty big trauma. And I got out of rehab and everyone's like, oh my God, you look so amazing. But I was like in so much pain that I was like, oh, okay, well, if I look really hot and like I am skinny, then no one will know how like broken I am inside.
Yeah.
And so I started like doubling up my Vyvanse, and then I'd double up my Adderall, and then I'd triple up my Vyvanse, because I was like, I don't want to gain weight, because I thought that if I just like looked really thin and hot, then, and I got my lips done, like I also won a lawsuit when I got out of rehab that I had been working on for 2 years, and that was probably the worst time to get money. So I was like spending like an NBA player out of high school. Like I was like just like throwing cash around.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I have to be fun, and like I didn't want to be a downer, so I would just like spend money and like buy my friends things and like go on trips and like bring my friend, I would just do things. And also I spent a lot on myself. I was not that selfless, but like I was doing things to like look hot and look fun and look cool, because I was like very miserable inside. And then it was like this time last year, which I'm still kind of like, I realized I kind of have like my body has PTSD from.
Yeah.
I had met this guy at a wedding, and he was like really fucking with me, and I thought I was going to meet up with him, and I thought he kept bailing on me. He lives across the street from me. I met him in Memphis. He lives across the street from me. So he kept fucking with me, and I was like, it was like driving me absolutely insane. And I got down to like 100 pounds. I think I'm 5'6", like 105 pounds. And I was just like railing Adderall, because I was like, I can't. Yeah, it was the thing of like, I can't gain the weight. And then he bailed on me for like the fourth time, like the third or fourth time. It was like something ridiculous. And I lost it. Like I sent him so many text messages, like I would say in the hundreds. Okay. It was like a stream of consciousness of like of all the shit I had been through, because he bailed on me in Miami, and I ran into, when he bailed on me, we went to a different restaurant, and I ran into this guy who basically what happened. Should I talk about this?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
I was like abducted and raped in an Uber.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. And I was with my guy friend into the Uber, and he left me in the car.
What?
And then when I called him, which was on my birthday at the rape center, he was like, oh, you're alive. And I was like, what? He was like, you were so drunk, and then like that driver was so creepy. And I was like, and you left me in the car? So this guy bailed on me for the last time. I go to a different restaurant, and I run into the guy, and I said to the guy who like left me in the car, because he didn't even reach out the year after. The year later, it happened on my birthday, he didn't reach out. And I said, all right, I gave you all year to reach out to me and try to be my friend and like try to make up for the fact that you literally almost let me die, like, and you don't reach out, like you're fucking done. Never speak to me again. And he's an agent, like he's like fully like works at a company that like I should want to work with, but like I will never work with because of him. And not that they want to work with me, but whatever. So I said, never speak to me again. So then I was in Miami. I get bailed on by this guy. We go to a different restaurant, and I run into that guy. And I like literally something in my brain set off, and I like sent 100 and like something text messages, and it was all stream of consciousness. Like, you don't, because I had told the guy who was bailing on me.
Like what had happened.
I hadn't told him, but I had been like, hey, can you please not fuck with me? I'm not in a great place. Like, if you're serious about taking me out, I really did feel a connection with you. But if not, like,
just tell me.
Just tell me.
Ghosting is the worst thing you could do.
But it wasn't even ghosting. It was like, I really want to take you out. And then it would be like, oh, I can't because like I'm not in a place, but I think about you. Like, and then he would like accidentally text me, and like, he's a 37-year-old man. It was ridiculous. And the fact that I was like giving into it now, I like think about it, because he lives across the street from me. So I run into him from time to time, and he just avoids eye contact, and so do I. But in the text messages, I was like, this is what happened. And because you bailed, I ran into the guy who left me in the car. And like, it was just so unhinged when I sent. And I literally was like, okay, like I have to get off Adderall. Like I'm never going to grow as a person, and I'm never going, like I was so dependent on it as well. But it also had reached the point of like psychosis. I was taking so much. And I was so thin, and I was just like, my friends were like, you don't look good. Like, my friends were starting to get worried, and I was like, I don't know. It's just like, I didn't want to go back to rehab because I was like, I have the tools. Like, I spent a month there. I have the tools. I know what's wrong. So I just got to like flush the Adderall.
Damn. Was it hard to do that?
Yeah, I cried.
Yeah.
I was like,
You're like,
I should sell this. I should start a small business. But I felt like I had realized that, like, because even going to rehab, like, I read enough books, I was in enough therapy to recognize patterns, and I knew I was in an unhealthy pattern, and I knew I was like kind of spiraling, but something had to happen for me to get out of it. And then it was like being like attaching myself to a guy who was just so emotionally fucked, right, that like I was like, what am I doing? And that's why I also think I'm single, because I go after these guys who are like so clearly not interested in me, to the point where I'm like, it's like almost a game for me. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot keep doing this. And I was like, I'm never gonna get. Actually, a comic said this to me. Do you know Lil Frex?
Who?
Frex.
Mm-mm.
She's like she does stand up, but she has, I don't know, she's just funny. But she was like, Hannah, you're never she was like, you're never gonna find the love you want on Adderall. And I like, after seeing all those text messages and like looking at myself in the mirror, and my face was like so sunken in, I was like, okay, like I have to change. And I think I was using like the trauma I'd been through, which was a lot, to like justify my abuse of Adderall. Yeah. And like not drinking, it felt like, okay, like
I'm not drinking, I can do this.
I can do this. Yeah. And I'm getting so much done. Meanwhile, I was just like writing nonsense on my computer.
It feels like you're being so productive. That's crazy that you got, like, did you get into the wrong Uber, or you got into like actual Uber?
So it's really confusing because
also, you totally don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, it's like he was an Uber driver, but a lot of times Uber drivers pull up, and then the Uber behind them, they'll cancel, and then the Uber behind them will be like, it'll be the same car. So it'll be like 2 Toyota Corollas, and they'll be like, Hannah, and then the first car will cancel so that you don't have a track record.
Whoa.
But he was an Uber driver. Like, he was
an Uber driver, just not the one that you called?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he did drive for Uber because he had, like, the Uber thing. You know, the Uber sign in his car. Yeah. Because when I left the next morning, I saw
That's terrible. Did you win the lawsuit with Uber? Is that the one that you won?
No, I was molested by the USC gynecologist in college.
I heard that in your act. That's...
Yeah. So that I had been working on for years. And then I literally got out and then this happened. And I'm, like, finishing my... I'm like, how did getting molested affect me? Well, I'm writing this in rehab right now. And so I actually wasn't going to sue Uber because it's like a lawsuit is so draining.
Yeah, because you have to think about this thing all the time. You have to like make it your life.
Yeah. It was so like, there are so many moving parts to it. Like, I realized a lot of my friends who I thought were my friends weren't. And like, for example, the guy who got in the car with me, and like, it was just like, there were so many like truly like devastating aspects to this that I didn't want to rehash it. And also like, I didn't want to like, I don't want to live in a lawsuit. And like the money that I got from USC, I got the week after, or like 2 weeks after I got out of rehab. Right. Which is the worst time to get that much money. Right. Like, I was like, oh, great. Now I'll just like spend like the amount of, I have like a Chanel bag. Like, I'm like,
I don't need this.
I don't need this.
Right.
And I can't afford this. Like, you know, and I was spending money. Yeah. Just crazy. And I guess for me, I'm like, I proved to myself that money like that is not healthy for me. Like, any excess, like, of course money's great, and like I bought an apartment, like that aspect is great, but like excess wealth, when like you don't earn it, or like 2, it comes from a traumatic place, it's like I don't want to complain or sound like but it wasn't healthy for me at that time.
Right.
And so like even the thought of getting more money is like, it also ran my Adderall addiction up because I could afford to like buy some from a dealer. Like I was like just very, and then that mania from Adderall made me spend more money. Like it just, so the idea of suing Uber was like, well, what am I going to get more money that's possibly going to fuck with my head more, or like going to enable an addiction that I have deep down or something. But then my mom, I gave her power of attorney because she, you know, my parents like helped me get through this, and my mom I think really wants to feel justice because it's like so fucked what happened, and the fact that Uber, even if he wasn't my driver, he is an Uber driver, and like the police said that this happens a lot where they wait out front and then they'll cancel a ride.
It's
like
crazy.
This happens all the time.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, they should be fucking penalized. Like, they need to take responsibility. Yeah. Why aren't they telling people? Like, how do people not know about this? And so I guess my mom is technically suing on my behalf, but it's just like at some point I just want to like earn money doing what I love, and I just like spending so much energy on these lawsuits. Yeah. It's like Mike Racine was like, you're gonna be the richest woman in the world based off your pussy, and I was like, I know. That's like how I feel. But yeah, so I think it's just a lot has happened in the past 2 years of my life that has like radically changed my view of the world. And I want to be rich. I want to have a lot of money, but I also want to do it and like make money in a healthy way, doing something I love, or marrying into money would be nice. Yeah. It's just been kind of a roller coaster, I guess, is why.
How do you feel like, I mean, with everything that you know now, like, how do you feel, like, what do you feel like you can say to other people that are like suffering the aftermath of sexual assault? Because I feel like there is this like basically when I'm watching your set, the first thing that happens after you have the experience at USC is like you're like, I'm not gonna say anything. And then same with the Uber driver, you're like, your first instinct is like, it's just easier for me to not say anything. Yeah. And like then you take the steps and all of that, and also it's something that like you carry with you like throughout your life, unfortunately. Like, what are some of the things that like now with this experience you feel like you can help other people with and like kind of share?
Yeah, I think with the USC thing and why I decided to pursue Uber is because the USC thing, when I found out, I cried. I was like, I knew he was being weird. Like, he had fully molested me, and everyone I told my experience to before was like, oh no, he's a doctor. Like, you're being so dramatic. Hanna, you love being dramatic. And I was like, okay. And so when I saw that I was like correct I started crying. This was like even before the lawsuit, because I was just like, okay, how many other things have I been like, this doesn't feel right? Yeah. I haven't been able to trust my gut because people in authority are telling me that like I'm crazy or like I'm dramatic. So I play down situations, and then that's where I came up with that joke where it's like, how do I know? Because that conversation happened. And because I told that joke on stage, a girl who's in my sorority who was in the lawsuit, she came out to me after the show. I haven't seen her in 6 years. She came with my other friend and was like, why aren't you in the lawsuit? I was the last person to join the lawsuit because of that joke. Wow. And I was like, okay, like, and it was Gloria Allred who represents Bill Cosby's victims. Wow. And so I didn't know who she was, and I was like, can I talk to Gloria Allred? And they were like, no. And I was like, no, my friend Terry like met with her. They're like, okay, that's great, but like you can't just talk to Gloria Allred. And then I told my story, and they were like, yeah, you can definitely like get in at the last minute. And then he killed himself recently, the doctor. He was supposed to go to trial, to go to jail, and he killed himself. Which,
how did that make you feel? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I think if, yeah.
I mean, it's validating that, like, I mean, obviously you had the validation from everyone, but it's like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling of like, okay, well, he's admitting it weirdly. He's silently admitting this.
Yeah, because it's like he feels so guilty that he's did that.
Or he's scared he's going to get shanked in jail, you know, less guilt and more like, okay, I'm going to get murdered in jail. I might as well just kill myself.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, so like I've had male gynecologists before and it's really uncomfortable, but they make a woman sit in the room. Did they not do that?
So he had a nurse, but he put a
like a thing over his head.
Yeah, a curtain behind him. So she didn't come in.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And I think because I had never had a pap smear before, he perked up. He's like, oh, you never had a pap smear. Well, you're 18, you have to have one. Which is like, you can't really make someone have a pap smear. That's never.
Right. And even so, if they offered it, you'd be like, okay, if a doctor says I need one. It's like.
At first I said no because I had a UTI. And I was like, I don't want to. You can get the results from peeing. I was like, I don't want to. Like, I'm in so much pain, and I heard the crank thing hurt, so I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And he's like, you have to. So he like forced me into it, and the whole time I'm like, oh my god. And then at one point I'm like, because it's like uncomfortable, and he's like, ooh, we got a giggler on our hands, and like just shit like that, like for an hour. So that was like
an hour.
Yeah,
wow.
It was like the longest appointment of all my appointments combined. Women are in and out. They're just like, they swab out.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like your joke, like, you're like, you make like a little joke about it at the end, but I feel like people don't even realize like the detail, the fact that you're even just saying like it was an hour. That alone is insane.
It was insane.
Like that alone, I'm like, an hour long? That's psychotic.
It was such a long appointment that I mean, my first comedy blog ever was I lost my virginity to the USC gynecologist. And I thought that was hilarious because I was like, that was like my first thing in comedy where I was like, this was so fucking weird and no one believes me. So I'm going to write a comedy blog about it. And, you know, that ended up being evidence and the most, you know, worthy piece of writing. Like,
what do you feel like there is to do? Like, I feel like, what do you feel like there is to do? Like about, like it is a weight. It's a weight that you carry. Like people don't even realize it. And like when you have sex for the rest of your life, like it is a weight that your like body carries. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like it is something that continues to happen. And like it is something that like society continues to like not really like listen to women about. Like I feel like people are like, believe women, but like really believe women. Like people don't. Like how do we get past this, I guess? Like as a society, I just feel like this keeps happening.
Unfortunately, for me, that's why I quit drinking, because I was like, I don't know if we ever will, and I need to do everything to protect myself.
Yeah.
So like that's why, and I think that's why I got into Adderall, because I felt so in control and so like alert.
Yeah.
That like I'm not trying to victim blame and be like everyone needs to take accountability, but like I think it is important we look out for each other, and if we see a drunk girl, we help her, or if we see, you know, because it's hard to say what do we do when there's a lot of alcohol involved and men are the way they are, and women get very drunk and can be very vulnerable. And I'm not trying to victim blame at all, but I think it's hard to say, oh, let's do this. Like for me, it's like I just can't drink. And then like as far as like alert sexual assault, like the doctor incident, I mean, I think a lot of girls coming forward was really helpful.
Yeah.
And I told my mom and I told a few of my friends, but I didn't report him because I didn't know. And I think that's the other thing that's really hard, is like it was hard for me to know. It was my first pap smear.
Right.
He was awkward and said weird shit, but my mom was like, oh, he's an old man, like he's just a weird doctor, like he's awkward. And again, I was 19, so that was after my first time having sex, and according to him, I didn't even have sex. He's like, I hate to burst your bubble, but your hymen's still intact. I was like, what the fuck? So like even this weird shit he says. So I think I think it's hard to even say like how to prevent it, because I think, I mean, I keep saying I'm going to sign up for a self-defense class or like,
right.
But I do look for warning signs now. Like I went on a date after like a couple years ago, like a year and a half ago, I guess. This was like 6 months, 8 months after it happened. And the guy was being really weird, and he was trying to lure me back to his apartment in a way that I was like, you told me to go this way. Now you're telling me to go this way? Why do you want me to wait in your lobby? But I was so glad I was sober, because I was like, no. And then I was like looking for my Uber, and he was like directing me away from my Uber. And I literally hail a cab. I find a cab. I'm like, I'm just going to get in this cab then. And he's like, you're not going to hug me goodbye? And I was like, all right, I'll hug you goodbye. And I hug him, and he pulls me in and kisses my face. And I go, okay, you've had enough. And I like throw him off of me, and I get in that cab. And I was like really shaken up by it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with men? Like, what the fuck? And I was just so grateful I was sober, because something way worse could have happened. Like I called my brother after, and he was like, imagine if you were drunk and you had gone to that lobby. Like, you don't fucking know. And so I think really standing your ground and being like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and trusting your gut is another thing that like women should do, and not be afraid of upsetting the other person, which is hard because that's inherently in us to be like, we don't want to upset a guy. Like, I don't want him to think I'm crazy. I don't want him to think I'm a bitch. But at some point, it's like, I don't fucking care if this guy thinks I'm crazy. I don't fucking care if he thinks I'm a bitch. And just, really trusting your gut when you have a weird vibe from a guy. It's like, goodbye.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I also don't drink, like, but when I did drink, I had this like weird paranoia about being roofied. Like it was like an obsessive fear. So like whenever I had a drink, I would drink it like really, really quickly, because I didn't want to take my eyes off of the drink. Like it was like, but then I would just get drunk super quickly, because I literally
like roofing yourself.
Yeah, I'd be like holding the drink like this, or like I wouldn't put it down, or like I just was like crazy. I would just like, if I got a drink, I'd drink it in 2 seconds. I would never get a drink from anyone else. Have all of these tricks of like, if someone gives me a drink and I don't want it, I go to the bathroom, I pour it in the sink. Like I literally like was so paranoid about being roofied from people for some reason, even though like it's never happened to me.
I mean, that's a fair. But maybe you're roofied in a past life.
Maybe. I feel like one time I got like weirdly sick, but I don't know. But I feel like then I would just get super sick, because I would like be chugging drinks, because I was like afraid they were going to be like in the open air.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I have to stop drinking.
Yeah. When I was in rehab, I had my brain scanned, and it was like my brain doesn't recognize 1 drink from 10 drinks. So I have no alarm. Like some people throw up. Some people are like, oh, I feel too drunk. Like my brain doesn't. It just like starts to like put itself at ease, because my anxiety is so high. And then it's like, boom, boom, out goes the lights. So, yeah, I don't really, I hate alcohol, but.
Do you feel like it's like, how do you feel like audiences respond to you like talking about these things on stage?
I don't talk about getting raped by an Uber driver, just because I think in a 5-minute set, it's like, how do you people have so many questions. Like rape is such a Ali Makovsky, I just opened for her, has a really funny joke where she talks about how rape is a hard word, so it's better to sing it. She like sings it. And I think for me, like, yeah, it's such a tough word. And I think I talk about it on podcasts, but people feel like bad for me. And it's hard to make people laugh when they feel bad for you. And I don't want people to feel bad for me, because ultimately, like, I have a good life, and like people get raped a lot. So it's not like I'm, it's, it's very sad, and it's very scary, and it was very traumatizing, but unfortunately, this happens all the time. So it's just, and I have a very great life. So
right.
I just don't want an audience to feel bad for me. So I don't really talk about it. But someone was like, you should do a 1-woman show. I'm like, a 1-woman show about rape? Feels a little.
I feel like when time passes, like it gets they can sense the energy isn't as like fresh.
Yeah. And like my one guy friend who's a stand-up was like, Hannah, those shit you talk about. Because my first year out of rehab, I was talking about rehab. I was just talking about like being sad. I was talking about being like depressed, and like, yeah, that's still in the same like wheelhouse of like depression, and I'm really trying to get out of it. But and it's been easier to write jokes now. I notice it's now that my antidepressants are hitting, it's easier to write jokes about like everyday life as opposed to, but it's taken like, it will be 3 years in May since it happened, and it's taken that much time for me to not like just think about the darkest shit possible when writing a joke. Like when approaching a joke is like not thinking of the darkest fucking punchline. It's like, and I feel like only Anthony Jeselnik can get away with that kind of shit. And like, if Anthony Jeselnik got raped, I bet he could do an hour on it.
Right?
But
what do you think is like the most significant thing, has been the most significant like contributor to healing in the last 3 years?
My parents I've hang out with my parents a lot. I got a dog. And I think just like kind of accepting where I'm at. Like, I'm such a perfectionist, and like I was a straight A student in high school. I think I was addicted to Adderall because I'm obsessed with being perfect. Yeah. And then just kind of like letting myself be sad, or like letting myself take a day to watch Real Housewives for 12 hours, as opposed to before I'd be like, that's so lazy. That's so pathetic. Like I'm a loser. I mean, I still have this like weird guilt about it, but kind of just giving myself grace. And like there have been incidences with guys where, I mean, the guy who I texted 120 times, which honestly, like, whatever.
Did he respond?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said like,
whoa.
Yeah, he was kind of like, whoa, like, I don't know how this is ever gonna work. And I was like, yeah, it's never gonna work because you refuse to meet up with me. Like,
you're like, yeah, this is enough.
He said, he actually called me because I was like, you better fucking call me in the morning. So he did. He called me and he sounded scared out of his mind. Because you're
like, I know where you live.
Well, yeah. And also like there were a lot of like miscommunications. Like it's hard to explain, but we had mutual friends. We had so many mutual connections that I misread a timeline on something, and I threatened to tell someone a secret that like actually did not line up with an actual timeline. But we had like so many random connections. Like we had 3 connections of people who don't know each other. That's no, weird. Four people who we know in. So you're like, this is a sign. New York, 2 in New York, 1 in LA, and 1 in Florida.
We're supposed to
be
hang
together.
Out. Come on,
fucking yeah. And I had just met a psychic got involved. It was crazy. But
what did the psychic say? You should be with him?
No, she said you're about to meet a guy who's older. I can't tell if it's through friends or through work, but you're gonna sit down at a table and you're gonna have a really a connection. Okay. And that was literally him. We like sat down at the table. He knew my boss.
What's your astrological sign?
Taurus.
Okay. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, I get embarrassed very easily.
Yeah.
So like when I'm still talking about this guy, not because I give a shit about him, because I'm so humiliated.
No, I understand.
And we also have mutual friends, so it's like if they were to see those texts, they'd be like, Hannah's out of her fucking
mind. You gotta own it. You gotta be like, yeah, I'm fucking crazy. I'm a comic. I'm a successful crazy comic. Like, get with it. You have to be crazy to do this.
Yeah, you have to be crazy on some level. And so the best advice I got is like, you know, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So it's like, as embarrassed as you feel, or as embarrassed as like you do, whatever you feel, don't be embarrassed. Like, I don't know, just lean into the fact that like what happened. Also, like Ali Makovsky said this to me this weekend, because I was talking about a different guy I put myself out there with last year. Yeah. But that was a little more sane, but it was still a no for him. And I just felt embarrassed because he was a friend, and I was like, I think there's more here. Because he tried to kiss me once, and he was like, no.
Oh no. What did she tell you?
She was like, I was just like, I really put myself out there. And that when he said no, I wasn't mad. I was just like, oh fuck, I read this wrong. You know, I was like, oh God. And she's like, but you're like a year away from that. And like the best part, she's like,
a year away from what?
Like putting myself out there.
Okay.
With the different, because this guy who kept bailing on me, I was also developing a friendship with this other guy that I thought. So it was like, I was like, I have 2 guys on my roster, and it's like I actually had 0. But she's like, I think it's really cool when I see someone acting crazy and then I see them later and it's like they've grown so much. Like,
right.
That's a really cool thing to see. So she's like, think about it that way. Like, you're not there. You're not doing that this year.
Yeah.
And that is something.
Is she sober too?
Yeah, she
cool.
is. Yeah.
Nice.
So she's like, and she's someone I'll be like, Allie, I have to tell you this. Because like the person I put myself out there with, it was a mutual friend. I was like,
you're like,
I did this fucking embarrassing thing. Please don't judge me. And she was like, also, it's not that embarrassing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
But I think from high school, I put myself out there with this guy. So there's this like trauma from that's always like, oh.
Yes.
Like, oh. And then I think everyone's like laughing, like, oh my God, Hannah thinks that we were to, but that's not even real. That's not a real.
It's so funny because I think guys feel that a lot. Like, I think that's like a guys feel like this genuine fear of asking women out. Like, what's the worst thing it's like in so many TV shows, like, what's the worst thing she can say is no. What's this? Like, I feel like and it's like people don't really talk about how women deal with that too. Like that fear of rejection in the same way. Because like women aren't really taught to put themselves out there the same way.
Yeah. And I think I do have like masculine, like I do stand up and like I'm pretty blunt.
Yeah.
I'm not very like coy or like I don't, I'm not like a sexy as is Taylor Swift, sexy baby. But I do put myself out there and then I'm like, oh, it's like a punch to the gut. It's like I feel sick to my stomach. And then I'm like, I think it's more embarrassing now to be like embarrassed by it. It's just like,
right.
I have to learn to like.
To not give a fuck.
My therapist actually, a good advice is she said, date like wearing a loose coat. Like you can lose it at any time. Who cares?
Yes.
Don't hold it so tight.
That's true. That's such good advice. Be like, hey, like hitting on people if they don't want to. Be like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, because I do.
That's like lower the stakes.
Lower the stakes. Yeah. And I think because I'm in my 30s, I feel like the stakes are so high. Right. But then my therapist is like, every time a guy is like not interested in you, for whatever reason, it could be them or they're just not interested. Maybe they are not in the right place.
Right.
You look at your insecurities and I'm like, it's because I have herpes. It's because I'm sober. It's because I talk about herpes on stage. It's because I've done this podcast, It's because I talk about rape. It's like, that's not true. It's just an insecurity I have in myself. And I'm not going to stop talking about herpes. I'm not going to stop talking about getting raped. So I need to either stop talking about it or get over it. And I think it's easier to get over it.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the most attractive thing is like when people don't have this self-consciousness, when they're like, yeah, I do this and I don't give a fuck and I own it. And it's just so hard to get to that place. It's so hard. But I feel like you always have a boyfriend. I mean, you're always like... I am a serial monogamist. How do you do it? How do you lock it down? I don't know. I think... Are your parents together? Yes. So I was thinking about this actually in the shower this morning. My parents aren't together and I feel like it's like, maybe it's like been... I was like... Because I was like, it's so crazy. Like, I think it's crazy that you, that you're single. That's so nice. Thank you. No, I do. But I feel like... I don't know. For me, I think... This sound like I haven't always been with like the right guy. I think at times I have like set like right now I feel like I'm with the right guy, but in the past I would hope so. Yes, obviously. But in the past I've definitely like settled for someone that isn't the right guy because I've been like so desperate to just be with someone. Yeah. So I feel like I've done that in the past because I'm like I felt so like kind of at sea in the world. Like, I'm just like, my parents are separated. I don't really have a family. I feel very like alone in the world. And I felt like I needed like a relationship so badly that like I would make it work with someone that like wasn't right for me. And I've done that so many times in my life. That's why I feel like I've been a serial monogamist in my life. That does makes sense. And then I was like, okay, if I had maybe like a foundation of like family, I wouldn't necessarily feel this like desperate need to recreate family. And like now I do feel like I'm with the right person and like he's my age, like he's great, he's normal and like he checks like all these boxes and we have a really great connection. But in the past, like the guys I've been with have been so clearly wrong. Like way older than me, like not financially stable, just like people my parents didn't like. And it's like I don't know why I just ignored those signs and were just like, but
Were they always in the back of your head? Like, oh, this guy kind of sucks.
In the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I know my mom hates them. Or like, I know this is like a little embarrassing that they're like this much older or that they're failing at this. But like, I'm just like felt this like weird like need to be like loved. And I think like that need, it was so much stronger than anything else. If that makes sense.
Yeah. My best friend from growing up, I was like, my boyfriend from college, we talked for like up until like 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, maybe at this point. And I was like, I don't know why I always go back to him. And she was like, because you don't love yourself enough to just be alone. And I was like, ooh.
You're like, come on, man.
I was like, damn, that's actually a good piece of advice, because then my therapist is like, your friend should not be telling you that. But then I was like, it's kind of true though. And she knows me better than anyone. And I'm not respecting myself in that way.
Yeah.
Because I always have needed, I don't like commitment, I guess. I didn't like need a relationship, or like, I guess what you're saying, I found it, because you're right. Like my parents, I always like have that to like, it's like every Thanksgiving I'm like, okay, or every Christmas it's like, not to rub it in, but like, like it's always like, okay, like I know what I'm doing, or like,
right. No, it's like me and my mom at like someone's Thanksgiving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, so there's that sense of, I get that. Yeah, and I do have that sense of foundation, but I did feel like I always need that like a male attention, that corner, even if it wasn't commitment. Yeah. And now this is actually, I think what has really been healing is like not needing that attention this year. I've been on 2 dates.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it's because I'll see a guy online, or like if he says something that I'm just like, this is a type of this, I've been down this, I've fucked enough guys where like I see a pattern and I know, like I see a sign, I'm like, I know the pattern, and like I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm like, okay, it's very easy now for me to say goodbye. Like, right. Or just say like, no, thank you.
You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think being alone so much, because I've been alone so much this year, has been super helpful. So I think that would be like a good, I guess like the best advice is like really learn to be by yourself. And people say that all the time, but I didn't do it. Like I would just be like, oh yeah, I'm by myself, but like I was going on serial dates, or like I would always need like a guy friend who was like, is he a guy friend,
or is he into me?
Yeah, like let's go to a bathhouse together. You know what I mean? It's like
totally.
But now I do feel like, okay, like if there's a friendship like that, I don't give into. If there's, if anything feels unhealthy, I've been able to stay away, because I'm like so desperate to not hit another rock bottom. Like I've been the worst I've ever felt, and I'm like just trying to get away from that, and like anything I can do, I'm like just like running away,
Yeah, I feel that rock bottom is like, I feel like my relationship before Dan was my rock bottom. Like I was single for a year between those two relationships, which is probably the most impressive thing I've ever done.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful, but not beautiful. It was like a lot of pain. Like I felt like that relationship, I lost every single part of like who I was, because like, you kind of get like, you get like wrapped up into something, like, and you just slowly start to lose all of these parts of yourself.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, all of a sudden I'm like not doing stand-up. I'm like prioritizing this person's needs over mine in every single way. And it's like you just completely lose yourself. And like then the relationship's over, and then you're just like a shell of a person. So that's kind of where I found myself like a year before Dan and I started dating. And I was like, I feel like that rock bottom was when I started streaming on Twitch, and like I was like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream on Twitch, and I just streamed on Twitch like 40 hours a week. Like,
should I start streaming on Twitch?
Maybe, yeah. And I was just like, I'm just going to like re-find myself kind of, and like re-find who I am.
And what you like.
Yeah, and like I felt like for the first time, like parts of myself that like I hid, that I was like bullied for in high school, I kind of like could bring out again a little bit, like silly parts of myself, or like voices and stuff. I really feel like until I've like really tried to be like sexy and cool and like quiet, and then after like all of that's knocked down, you're like, all right, whatever. I there's no point in trying anymore. I'll just be myself.
That's how I feel too. Like I was like, I hate posting on Instagram because it just makes me nervous. And I'm like, if I'm dating, what if they see my Instagram? And like this year I've been like, I don't give a fuck. Like I don't care. I whatever I thought would work last time or like for the past 30 years has not worked. Yeah. So like, fuck it. Exactly. I don't care anymore. And that it is freeing. That feels very nice. And I, you know, now write down things I want in life, and I do want a relationship eventually, but that's not even at the top of my list. I'm like, if I don't end up married, I think I'll be fine.
You'll end up married. I feel like you will. Like, I definitely think this is like, I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know. To me, it's still crazy.
That's so nice. No, I feel like
you're like, you have a like very successful career. You're funny, you're pretty, and you're smart. Like, it's very like, you know, you could present like Hanna to someone. They'd be like, yeah, man. Like, it's very like.
No, I think, but I do think I want, like, what I want is, I want someone who's very successful. I want someone who's very.
You should have high standards.
I have super high standards. So I think it's also like my standards might be. My therapist says that. She's like, your standards are.
That does happen with people. Like, they have really high standards. But that, like, I feel like, you know what happens? Like, I feel like you, like, kind of, like, fall into something that you're not looking for when you're not caring. And, like.
My psychic did say the guy that I end up with is not my type, which is like.
We love that.
I know, but now I'm like, what is. So then I had to figure out what my type was. And unfortunately, it's blondes who wear boat shoes. And I need to get out of that.
That's good that we're not going to be with a blonde that wears boat shoes. That is so unattractive. Okay, we're going to pull a tarot card. Okay, so will you shuffle the deck?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love it. Are you good at reading this?
I'm trying. Like, I feel like. Okay, so there's some cards I can read without the book. And then there's some that I don't really know, but we will consult the book regardless. Okay. I've been really freaking people out. Like, so basically I used to do it. So I'm just like, I'll read a card for the podcast. Then I was like, no, I'll do past, present, future. And now I'm freaking people out on the pod. I'm like not trying to.
Okay. Employees Only in West Village, they have a psychic when you walk in. Uh-huh. And when I first moved to New York, this was 6 years ago, I was like very lost. I moved here without a job. My tarot card, she pulled for relationships. 10 knives in the back, 10 daggers in the back.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, you're going to meet him through work, but not anytime soon. And then she's like, you're about to get a job. And then like a week later, I got a writing job that I auditioned for and was not, like on Monday, they were like, okay, you have an audition Wednesday. And then I got the job and I was like, oh my God, that's like it's so good, the tarot card.
Whoa. That's good.
Okay.
I have a good feeling about your cards.
Well, let's hope.
Let's see. All right.
I just did an 8-ball before, or not an 8-ball of Coke, but like a magic 8-ball. And I was like, what's my next job going to be? Because my job's ending. Yeah. And it was like, or like, will I get a job soon? And it was like, don't count on it. And I was like, fuck.
It's a magic 8-ball though.
Yeah. Magic 8-balls. Those are so, yeah, exactly. I was like, why do you have this here? Yeah. It's rude to have it in an office.
Yeah. All right. The past card. Okay. We've got the 9 of Cups. Some emotion. Okay, Magician. We love that for the present.
What is that?
I'm not sure, but it's good. It's like
you're freaking me out.
No, the Magician. This is like the second card in the hero's journey. So like first he's like the fool, he doesn't know anything, and then next he's like the magician, and then there's like all the elements there. And I don't know. I gotta look at it in the book. Okay, honestly, I had this feeling you'd have a good reading. This is really like a good reading.
Oh, thank God.
Seriously, Hanna, you don't even understand. People have been coming in here and like having the worst readings, and I've been feeling terrible. So I'm so relieved. This is such a nice reading, and I just want to take a minute to feel happy about it.
Pray on the cards.
You don't even understand like what has been going on in here. Thank God. Okay, good. We're gonna really take a look at the book to piece this together. Okay,
to double check.
So this is like the daughter of swords. Swords are like the air element. What element is Taurus?
Earth.
Earth. Okay. This is gonna signify either you or a person in your life. And this, yeah, that's all that we're really gonna walk into it with the book in hand to weave it together.
Wow.
Wow. Thank God. I mean, really, the last episode we had the tower, which is not what you want to see.
What is the tower?
The tower is the worst card. That the tower is like, unexpected change. It's gonna really fuck everything up. Yeah.
Thank God. I cannot deal with another curveball.
I know, right? Okay, that's why I knew you were gonna have a great poll.
Because I feel like what's actually crazy? I want to show you something.
Yes.
When I was 24, I did a palm reading app that I cannot remember what it was. But how weird is this? My life activity. I got raped on my 29th birthday. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And it came up in my memories. And I looked at it, and this was after I got back from rehab. And I don't know if you can see it, but
that is crazy.
Yeah. So it was like a red dot, and I literally should have died. He should have thrown me in a river, but he didn't. And
is it crazy that he's just like walking around?
Yeah. I've tried to go to the police. I did a whole report, but he was like a foster kid that was taken in by this woman, and then after what happened, she stopped taking in foster kids.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, that's in LA. Okay, so we're across the country at least.
Yeah.
Okay, so the past could be the recent past. The 9 of Cups, bliss, harmony. At last, the cup of wishes come true. When the 9 of Cups appears, worries and fears will be cast away. A new phase of peace and harmony awaits. The world seems to be granting your every wish. Good health, happiness, and even material gains are heading your way. Enjoy.
So they're heading my way. But that's the past.
The past, yeah. So in the past is saying in the present things will come your way, I guess.
Okay.
That's good. I mean, you won the lawsuit.
I spent a lot of that money.
Some money, but that's good. There's some bliss and harmony. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel okay. Then, oh my God, the Magician present, self-empowerment. It's a card of boundless, expansive energy, whereas many of the major arcana deal with stillness or aspects of the mind. This card's all about action, action, action. It's time to see yourself as the wildcat. Embrace his speed, grace, and abilities. Don't be afraid to begin. You have the power of all 4 elements within your reach. Now is the time to use them.
Wow. I was going to get a manicure after this, and now I'm definitely getting one.
Yeah. You have to really take your life. And okay, so this is you got out of rehab. Some good things were happening, but now you're self-empowerment, action, taking your life into your own hands. Wonder what the Daughter of Swords has to say, if it's going to be you or a person in your life. Okay. The swords are interesting people. The Daughter of Swords is a young woman whose honesty and insights take her far in life. People truly value her frankness. She learns from keen observation. It almost seems that, so she never stops watching. Sometimes this becomes a burden for her as she can't help noticing this or that small detail that could have been done better. There's a potential for her to hold on to those experiences and become spiteful and judgmental. Okay, can I be honest? I pulled this card recently, and this is what I took from it. But this could be me projecting my own life. I pulled this, and what I learned from this card is I feel like I'm so judgmental of other people sometimes that I internalize the judgment. And I'm I feel like I judge myself because I other people have judged me so much that I start judging other people, and then I start judging myself, and that's where my weird perfectionism comes from. And that if I let go of that, then and I stopped sometimes I'll get on stage, I'll look at a crowd, and I'll be they're not gonna like me. The set's over. Just because of the way just because of the way they look or something, or because I'll be is anyone from New York? And no one's from New York, and no one's in a relationship, and I'm they're all gonna hate me. Set's over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel there's this card kind of shows me that you have to observe people, but you have to watch your own judgment because it pops up in ways that you don't even realize and holds you back in ways you don't even realize. That's why I really like this card.
Yeah, I guess if I let go of, because I do think I do have I have a complex where it's I guess I just talked about this card the whole time when I was I see a guy, I'm those teeth, I know what he's up to, flip-flops and jeans, I know what he's about, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe I do have to let go of that.
No, it's hard not to project personalities onto people when you're like, when you don't know them, because I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is a really nice reading. It's kind of like it's like a new page.
I do think I'm in my transition phase because I literally got back from rehab. Things were going well, and then both my jobs ended. And then the strike happened, so I've been kind of in this crisis. But it's kind of good that everything slowed down the year I was getting off Adderall, if I'm being
that's true
positive about it, because I don't know if I could have kept up without my drugs.
Yeah, and it's like an industry where you really like make your own opportunities, kind of. Like you don't necessarily like could be a blessing to not have other people you're working for. You can work for yourself. You can make your own content on your page. You can like, I don't know. Like if you're doing social media for someone else, are you growing like your page? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I know. I need to
start
focus. How many times do you post on Instagram a day or a week?
A lot. Too much probably.
No, but I feel like I was looking at your Instagram before I came here and I was like, oh my God, you have so many followers.
Yeah, I feel like I post too much though.
No, I mean, I don't really notice when people, because I think sometimes if you post a lot, it hides from certain, you know what I mean?
Right,
like it doesn't. So, and also, so I don't notice, but I think
I probably post like almost every day or like every other day.
That's what I'm trying to get into the don't fucks, because I want to have more followers. I want to tour, so I have to post, but I just get in my head like,
you have
funny.
You have so like no. You have, okay, we're going to end the podcast soon, but before, you have so much already. I was literally saying this to someone else the other day, but like even if you just took like your 2 Comedy Central sets and just cut them up, they're already out. Just cut them up and put them on Instagram as reels, like all of the jokes on there, you'll gain like a ton of followers.
Yeah.
They're all really solid. Like they're solid.
Thank you.
You just got to put them up into clips.
Okay, you're
Clip
right.
format. Like
I'm
do it.
I'm going to be DMing you like, share this.
No, really, like I'll share it for real. Like do it.
Okay.
Put them in clip format, like every single joke.
This
like
has been so inspiring. Thank you.
Oh my God, yes. Thanks for being here. Hannah, where can people find you and follow you?
Yeah, please follow me. Hans Dickie at HANSDICKIE. I have a podcast. I'm bringing back my old podcast called Don't Tell Mom that comes out this week. Or, you know, I don't know when this comes out. But
probably in like a month.
So it's out. And then I have another podcast I do with my friends that's about like, it's called Haha Land, where we interview starlets in hopes of becoming multi-hyphenates ourselves. And it's kind of like the bit is that we interview Mariah Carey, Kylie Jenner.
Ooh.
Who else have we had on?
Did you interview them?
They always cancel. That's the joke. So we have like Heidi Klum. We had her for Halloween and she had to cancel because her costume was too big to fit in the studio. Yeah. So
love it.
So it's just a silly podcast we do, but it is all about celebs and like celeb gossip. So
fun. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys for watching. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. And we're on Fourth Wall, so check it out, helpwithnatalie.com for extra bonus episodes and merch. Thanks, and we'll see you next week. Bye.